So I just wanted to show you guys my setup. Hey, how's it going? Kevin here, and today I wanted to talk about lighting and the things you need to set up a simple scene. I feel like too many people overcomplicate lighting when it comes to filming videos for the internet. And really, to get a nice looking picture, all you really need is a big, soft light, like a window, but not a ring light. Please stop using ring lights unless you have a reason to use a ring light, like a music video or like a makeup video. I've just seen too many videos of people blindly using ring lights and you can see the ring in their glasses and it just looks bad. So in general, there's two kinds of lights. There's hard light and then there's soft light. So earlier I said we needed a big soft light source. And why did I pick soft? It's simple. It's because we don't want any shadows. And I think for the majority of YouTube content creators, that is the right way to go. A nice soft giant light source. Hard shadows on things generally are kind of distracting, especially if you see them on people. Once you kind of learn the difference between the two, from there you can add more light or take more light away. But depending on the feeling you're trying to convey to your audience, feel free to experiment with different types of lighting. Like for example, low-key lighting is something that uses less light. It's usually reserved for something more on the cinematic side, like this scene from the Joker. Then the opposite spectrum of that would be high-key lighting for like commercials, which I personally like a little bit more and lean towards. But the problem usually with high-key lighting is you need like a million lights. Like you also see high-key lighting in like sitcoms and comedy.
We so rich. Why we can't afford no ceiling?
Since there isn't much contrast between the foreground and the background, the main benefit of using high-key lighting is that you can reposition your shots without repositioning your lights because everything is nicely lit already. You just have to shoot. For a simple lighting setup, you really only need 3 lights, and sometimes you can get away with 2. The key, the fill, and the backlight. So, let's see. This is the backlight, that's my key, and this is my fill. People usually call this 3-point lighting. You should also keep in mind of all the other lights that are in your scene, such as the ceiling lights or the window light or even the computer monitor light. Like for example, this computer monitor to the right of me is lighting my face. And if I turn it off, you can really see the difference there. In terms of equipment, most creators I've seen on YouTube uses an Aperture 120D with a softbox. Creators like Peter McKinnon. It's really the go-to light. The 120D provides a really powerful light source and the softbox translates that into a giant light source. It's perfect, but it is pricey. I think the main reason I'm so obsessed with lights is that it took me a long time to realize how much they matter in video. You can go back a couple videos on my channel and you can see when I didn't really pay attention to my lighting. A lot of controversy surrounding the characters. Now if you don't have the budget and you don't want to buy a 120D, you don't really have to. The only benefit I really see from getting a 120D is that it's convenient. There are other ways to get nice soft lighting. And one of those ways is to bounce light. Right now I have this light bouncing light off this giant white background. And if I were to replace this whole setup, it would be a nice big 120D in front of me. It takes a little bit more space, but it works. This is a really good alternative to a 120D, but if you don't have one, you need to light yourself in a pinch, you could use a flashlight. So I just wanted to show you guys my setup. I have a blanket as my backdrop, and to hold the middle section, I have this broom handle that I found. I got this $130 Godox light shooting into a giant white background with a science fair poster on the side as my fill light. And for the kicker, I used the Aperture MX, and for the counterweight, I used a water bottle. I actually have another one down there as well. Lighting yourself is really about directing where light goes. Know that if you are bouncing light, you're gonna lose some light. So if your light source isn't as powerful, you're gonna have to be closer to whatever you're bouncing off of. Since as logic will tell you, the further away you are from a light source, the darker you'll be. So just keep that in mind when you're lighting yourself with not as powerful lights. So that's our key light. The next thing we have is the fill. And some people like using another light that's like at 5%, maybe 20%, depending on how dark their other side of the face is. In general, when you have a large light source shining on one side of your face, you're gonna have some dark shadows. So it makes sense to fill it in. And how I'm doing it is just using the science fair poster board, like $1, and I just put it on the opposite side of my face. All this board would be doing is taking that residual light that you have from your light source that's usually bouncing to the other side and onto the floor and bouncing it back up to your face. For the third light, we're talking about the backlight, and for that, people usually get creative. This light, like I talked about before, is to separate you from the background. For example, if I turn this light off right now, you can't really see my hair anymore. Some people like lighting their shoulders, some people like lighting the edge of their hair. It just kind of depends on your background. I'm using it to create a separation between my black background and my black hair. Now at this point, you might want to get creative and you want to light your background with some color like I see in too many YouTube videos. One light that I think is pretty good is the GVM50RS. I haven't tried it out yet, but I should get it in the mail soon. And I'm down to let you guys know how it turns out if you guys are interested in it, because I've been trying to experiment with colored lights as well. And in the case that you want to light your background, just make sure to do that first so you can make sure no weird colored lights are spilling onto your image. And one of the reasons I opted for the nice black background is because I'm in a temporary location. But because of how simple this setup is, it really means you can do this anywhere, like in a hotel, in a shed. As long as you are aware of what light sources you have access to and what materials you have to modify the light, there is really no limitation. Like modification could be a piece of paper, it could be aluminum foil, or it could be a pillow. I've used a pillow before. So as an example, let me turn off my key light, and now I don't have any lights, but I have this weird ring light thing, and I want to light my face, but I don't want to look like that. You know, I could shine this against a giant white sheet, right, and make a larger light source and light myself like that. Granted, it is kind of dark. I have to mess with some of the aperture. Here, let me do that. Like if I do this, you can make it work. As long as you know what your light sources are and what materials you have access to, you can really get a nice looking picture anywhere and anytime. And if you are into the DIY stuff, I did make a video about a DIY Aperture 120D that you should check out.